Hello, welcome to another episode of the Adventure of Inventing podcast. Today we have Bo Ghirardelli here with us. Quick intro for Bo. Bo, you're gonna be able to chime in if you want to add anything. But Bo is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Sky's the Limit. Has been building it for over 14 years. Sky's the Limit helps early stage entrepreneurs, like really early stage entrepreneurs, through mentoring, training, and getting access to capital to help grow their businesses. And a lot of this is facilitated through a digital platform. Sound roughly accurate, Bo?
Nailed it.
Sweet. So the idea is to just chat a little bit about how you started Sky's the Limit. Some successes, some learned lessons, and like where you are now and how you got there. Is there a little bit more maybe about Sky's the Limit you want to add on to my brief introduction? Like what is Sky's the Limit? What do you do?
Yeah, it's our vision is to unlock the potential of every entrepreneur, and we saw a huge gap in the market, both from nonprofit and for-profit businesses offering support for idea stage, under 200K revenue businesses, and particularly, small businesses, backbone of our economy type businesses, tons of focus on tech. And it was plenty okay to be pre-revenue and pre-idea, or early stage in your idea in tech and somehow raise at a 5 or 10 or $20 million valuation. But that's not a luxury that small businesses have. And when you look at United States, and about 60% of the country doesn't have access to $1,000 in an emergency, how do you get started building a company? I think there's a Vern Harnish quote that says, only the ones who don't need it can get the loans from the bank. His is a bit more pithy than that, but the point is that banks lend to risk-free folks, and entrepreneurship is not a risk-free process. So, anyways, this is a passion and a purpose for me. Been doing it for 14 years because the need is huge. So we have over 80,000 entrepreneurs who signed up on Sky's the Limit. Nearly 70% women, 80% people of color, mostly low income, mostly idea stage, food, fashion, beauty, you name it. We're agnostic as to the type or the industry of the company being created. And we've helped launch or grow about over 5,000 businesses, generated almost 10,000 jobs. So that's been our work for these many years.
Yeah, super cool and meaningful work, obviously. How did you originally get the idea to help? Like, what inspired you?
I moved to Morocco with the Peace Corps and during the Arab Spring. So I was in North Africa at a time when roughly 50% of adults were unemployed. And if you are a young adult who, is in your 20s or 30s, you were even higher rate of unemployment. So I was living and working there as a small business development consultant. And the idea for all of this came from the community itself. I had a bunch of young people approach me and say, "Hey, I can't get a job. I have an entrepreneurial idea. I need help starting it. Can you help?" And so we started off by figuring out what the idea was and helping get prepared to launch it and make sure that it was, in fact, an idea that was feasible and had a customer base and that they could make money from it. So that was the first step. That was kind of our entrepreneurship education and training bit. The second bit, then, they say, "Okay, we're ready to go. We got a plan. We've done some validation. How do I get money to launch this?" So we're like, "Okay, cool. Let's go to," we skipped the banks. We knew not to go to them. But we went to the nonprofit microlenders. These are lending companies that are subsidized by philanthropy or government money to provide access to capital. Even they said no to our entrepreneurs. So I said, screw it, and I'll do it myself. And, flew home to the Bay Area, born and raised in Oakland, California and talked to a bunch of family and friends and raised some money and flew back over and created a microloan fund to help them get started. And then they launched their companies, and whether it was like a sheep farm or a fruit orchard or a clothing resale, a barber shop, and they said, "How do I keep this thing running? How do I grow it?" And that's where we started a mentoring program. So we reached out to subject matter experts and other businessmen and women in the community, and connected them as mentors to the entrepreneurs we serve. So that's that holy trinity of
Yeah.
education for entrepreneurs and business mentoring and access to capital. That's the how we got started, and that's the root of what we do today.
Very cool. Obviously, from there, you then started to continue to grow it globally and also based in the U.S. How did you start to scale it from that?
Yeah. Um, we had an early break with the U.S. Embassy to Morocco, convinced them that this was part of the mission of the State Department, and so we got a seed grant from them. Um, then we went and kicked ass with that, and built a bunch of services and had some success stories and some wins of entrepreneurs creating businesses. And then we took it to the big daddy bucket of money, which is the whole regional State Department for the entire Middle East, um, and they had a lot more money, and that we got a grant to scale nationally, and partnered with the Moroccan Ministry of Employment, who was like, "Hey, this is a model." We had the minister come visit, and talk to our entrepreneurs, etc., and this is a model to scale. That's how we got national scale in Morocco.
Mhm.
About that, after we got that, I went home. This is 2 years in now, and turned over the Moroccan nonprofit to my co-founder, who's a friend from the community, and also a small business consultant. And I went home to Oakland, and we had some of those funders we raised money for our work in Morocco said, why aren't you doing this at home? Same thing exists there. And I talked to some people, and sure enough, that was the case. And came back and kind of started over, but with a whole program model, and built it up from 2000 and 13, 14, 15, and then in 2016 we had over 5,000 people applied our program that was just based in Oakland, and operating like a brick and mortar out of downtown Oakland. And we got so much demand for what we are doing that we were able to take this to our corporate, shop this around to corporate partners, and it brought on my co-founder and best friend Nick Carey, who was a tech founder, and we said, look, we can combine this program model with technology, and address the demand at scale for services, and that's what we did. So Accenture, I'm very fortunate with them. They took a big bet on us and paid off. And so we built a web app, and then we rolled it into an iOS and Android app, and we've had over 80,000 people sign up from all 50 U.S. states, the UK, and beyond.
Um, it sounds like you had to bang on a lot of doors for over to get all this funding over the. Was there a lot of like no's to go with the yeses? And I
Bloody
mean,
knuckles,
yeah,
bloody knuckles, a lot of banging. Oh yeah,
uh,
I think I'm at 1,000 no's.
yeah.
That was my goal, was to get to 1,000 no's, because along the way you get enough yeses to make it work. I'm now working on 10,000 no's. So yeah, I mean, I think you got to care about what you're doing. It also has to be able to sustain you. So I mean, we have been fortunate enough to get enough funding to keep the lights on, and pay rent and pay
Yeah.
mortgage, and buy groceries. Like, you as a founder got to eat. And so yeah, we've been able to make it work. And I think it's a common saying that it takes a lot of grit to be an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you know what that's like yourself, Rudy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, did you have connections to the U.S. Embassy or in government, or did you just go out and find the
Nope,
people?
nope, no. I mean, just being part of the Peace Corps. I mean, you could that can open
Yeah.
doors, but not really. I mean, you're just one of we were 200 Peace Corps volunteers in the country, and most people never interacted with the embassy or State Department. So it's a little bit of grit. I knocked on doors that had full security guards, and like Emirati princes visiting Morocco in their Moroccan secret hideout palaces, and people thought I was crazy. They're like, "You're going to get shot." Um, no, they didn't give us funding, but at least got a meeting.
Yeah.
Like, who's this crazy American who's just like traipsing in through our hideout? Um, you know, and so yeah, a lot of adventures along the way.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Not the average origin story, for sure.
Who knows? I mean,
Oh,
everybody's
like you,
got a little different version of crazy.
yeah, yeah, like you said, a lot of grit to be doing that, to get things off the ground, to just help some other entrepreneurs too. Um, so it's you had a co-founder, you have a co-founder. Did you have any other mentors or help or inspiration along the way at the beginning? Like, is there anything that stands out, that like people that were particularly helpful or inspiring to you?
I think you're hard pressed. Like, if you take the broadest definition of mentoring, I think you're hard pressed to find people who can't point to other folks and say this person influenced my life.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's really hard to define mentoring. You ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different definitions. Um, I just think about it as people who kind of go above and beyond, to care and to share some experience, and some of their experience with me in a way that makes an impact in my life. I've had teachers go above and beyond their duty as a teacher, and so to me, they've been mentors. I've had family friends who've been very fortunate to have that caring community, have folks who are a generation ahead, and had a lot of learnings and resources and skills to share. Um, Certainly, starting a nonprofit is a little different than a for-profit.
yeah.
So it's but at the end of the day, I'd say they're a lot more similar than they are dissimilar. And we can get into that if you want. My I have too many thoughts about this, so careful what you ask there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, it is interesting, obviously, nonprofit, versus for profit, and your road there, and how that works. I mean, is there? I don't know. I don't know what we should touch on there in particular, but obviously, you made a decision. I guess given the decision you went for nonprofit, like what is there something that triggered that at the beginning?
yeah.
Obviously, the mission
So
is very.
absolutely, and you can have a very mission driven company that's for profit, a social enterprise. To me, philanthropy exists to solve market failures. So capitalism is, in my opinion, the best system compared to all the rest. Uh, it does a great job of allocating resources most of the time to where they should go, and I think it mimics the way uh, the world works in the way we would study it in the science of physics or the science of biology mimics the way the world works and the way that we can observe. Um, and so I think that that's healthy. I do think that just like in nature, there are aberrations and things happen that destroy otherwise healthy ecosystems. This happens in capitalism as well, and I think nonprofits are a vehicle to address those. Um, in this case, something like Y Combinator has a very strong financial incentive to help tech founders and to take a percentage of their company, and they've made tens and tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in returns against nearly $1 trillion of market cap created by the tech companies funded by Y Combinator. So that's, to me, that doesn't need philanthropy. What happens is when you have something that's obviously good for society. So I think we can all agree that entrepreneurs are a very important part of every community. People clothe us, who feed us, build our homes, take care of our kids, and take care of our elderly as well. So I mean, there's just every facet of your life is touched by an entrepreneur, um, and I think that having more of them creates stronger. More entrepreneurs who are creating stronger companies create stronger communities. Um, so I think that there's a clear value there for society. The question is, how do you pay for it? Now, an entrepreneur who's barely able to pay for rent and eating ramen, and trying to break out with their company, and working a job on the side isn't going to have a lot of money to pay for the kinds of support, but it's worth it to society to provide that, so that they can go on to create a company, so that they can develop their business skills and apply that not only in their company but everywhere else, every other facet of their life. And so that's what, to me, philanthropy does. I mean, it's, folks who are homeless. We as a society, say sometimes that we don't believe that should happen, and so you can use nonprofits as a vehicle to address the change that you want to see in the world in an area where the market may not be able to handle those changes. So and while we're talking about it, the reason nonprofits are so much harder than for profits is because you have a triangular business model. Usually, you have the nonprofit who's providing services to a group of people who often can't afford to pay the full price of those services, and then you've got a third group, which is the funders who fund the nonprofit to provide those services. But those funders are often disconnected from how well a nonprofit delivers services to the people they exist to serve. So you've got more like double or triple the complexity of a for-profit business who just has one customer. They have the people who get their goods or services, and those are the people who pay you as a company, and you just need to listen to them. Nonprofits have to listen to so many people that it's often clouds how the what you should do as a business. You have to take care of too many chiefs.
I could not imagine basically you are probably needing to ensure you're helping and allocating the resources appropriately to the people you're trying to help, as well as sort of showing or proving or reporting back to the funders that that's also working well, and also hearing what the people you're helping are sort of saying and reporting back.
Yeah. And I promised you a
Yeah.
2-minute version and gave you a 5-minute version. So
Yeah.
go.
Obviously, this is your business. But that was very well articulated thoughts on for-profit and nonprofit. That was very insightful. So I was discussing this with my business partner, and it's an interesting concept. At what point were you like, I made it? the business is working. I have a real business. Part of the joke here is, do you ever feel like it's working? But was there like some event or something in the early days where you were like, I started a business. It is working.
Um, I'd say there's a lot of little moments that you could call wins, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think really, how you put it, doesn't feel like you've ever made it, and you haven't really. Like, I think maybe you make it, so the typical way you make it as an entrepreneur, some will say, is with an exit. Do you get paid for your company, and do you get to walk away with a big stack of cash? And do you have, and but there are plenty of entrepreneurs who are miserable after they sell their companies.
Hmm.
There are plenty of entrepreneurs who never sell their company, and just the cash flow from the business, creates the life that they want, or they're fine with it. So it's just, for me, there's a lot of wins along the way. Sometimes it's often, entrepreneurs testimonials saying like, "Hey, this is
Hmm.
my life." That's always puts a pep in my step.
Yeah.
And there's, funding wins. Those can be big windfalls. I mean, the first, big one, $4.5 million grant from Accenture was certainly a big win. And then renewing that again was a big win. So it's just, there are many ways that you have to celebrate the journey along the way. I've got that written on my wall. Celebrate, you know, enjoy the journey, celebrate your wins, and be okay with the losses and take them for the learnings they are,
Yeah.
and move on.
Is there any clear lessons learned that come to mind or mistakes made along the way that come up?
Um, you mean just generally about the entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, given your business, you are also serving thousands, tens of thousands of entrepreneurs. So, but for you personally, was there anything you look back on and be like, I took a lesson from that, or I should have done something differently?
Yeah, I think, hire slow, fire fast. I think take your time when you get to the point. I had to make a big adjustment from just kind of running the company to kind of leading the company, and that was I don't know if you can ever be fully prepared for it, but I made a lot of mistakes along the way, there, and I think that it's a picking and building and and bonding with a leadership team is, vital at some point when you can afford to hire a leadership team.
Yeah,
Uh, and having your head of sales and head of marketing and head of product, or head of, your services, and having your, whoever runs your back office all together, and working in sync, is, it's a beautiful thing when it happens, and it's very important to get right.
yeah. Well, a few minutes till we're at time, so I'm curious right now. What are you working on? What's Sky's the Limit working on? What's some of your biggest challenges you're working through?
Yeah. Well, we just published our book. That's been a long time in the making. And we are building this into our app. So we're building what I think will be, the kind of e-learning that works, which is one that's very social. So all that content from the book is going to go in and help entrepreneurs actually build their business step by step, and they'll be surrounded by mentors and their peers on the platform, while they do it. And combine that with virtual events, and our experts from our corporate partners at Accenture, Goldman Sachs, PNC Bank, Bank of America, others. Um, all of that is, we're trying to bring it into a glorious harmony, uh, and I think that's been a very long product journey,
Yeah,
and it's three almost different businesses all in one, and each of those could be its own company, its own nonprofit. And tackling something that needs all three to work well together is has been a big challenge for us. And we feel like we're getting closer and closer to that, particularly this year.
Yeah, very cool. And how long was working on the book? Was that a challenge to write a book? I mean, we've always thought about it, considered it, but it seems like maybe a big task.
We had a lot of help, and we had a lot of content over the years. So I think I've never written another book, but I don't think it gets much more straightforward than that. Like it felt like now was the moment, and we knew what it was going to be,
Yeah.
and we had great support. So it was, yeah, I'd say we were fortunate in that regard.
Very cool. Well, all right. I appreciate you chatting about your journey. Thanks for being on.
Anytime, Rudy. Good to see you.